And Andrew College is proud to welcome our new freshmen, our sophomores, our juniors, and our seniors this year. Together, we plan to move forward in our academic pursuits, our goals, and our discovery and exploration of our personal gifts. I want to say thank you to our students, our visitors, our guests, and our faculty and staff for being here today. We have several retired faculty and staff members in the audience, and I want to say that I am grateful for all of them for being here. Convocation is a beginning for every student and every member of the academic community. I hope you enjoy your day and your experience at Andrew College. Now our college chaplain, the Reverend Ivelisse Canones, will give our invocation.
Let's pray. Gracious God, Scripture reads that the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Today, in this wonderful moment, the 2019 Andrew College Convocation, we affirm that you are still declaring and proclaiming your glorious work over this great institution. Grant us divine wisdom and grace on all of the things to come on this new chapter for staff, faculty, and students. Give staff and faculty the strength to serve and educate. Give our students the wisdom that can only come from you, O God, to learn and accomplish their goals for this academic year. We present ourselves in humbleness to seek truth, to serve those in need, and to do justice while giving you all the glory and all the honor. Bless and protect this new generation of students. Bless us all gathered here while filling us with understanding, creativity, curiosity, and freedom to reflect on you and your will. In his name, amen.
Please join us in singing the hymn, How Great Thou Art.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen and Mr. Brownlee. Good morning. Convocation, to gather together, to be together. We stop what we're doing. We've already started classes, yes? We started the academic year. We've started soccer, volleyball season, right? We started softball practice, basketball, baseball. We've started all that. We stop and we convene. We come together. We come together to be together. We come together to share a common experience and to not use cell phones. So if you have not turned off your cell phone, please do so now. As a church-related college, particularly a United Methodist college, we are called to consider the big questions, the big issues. We seek truth. Now, we don't talk about that necessarily every day in every class, over every cafeteria conversation, during every practice, but it is part of our very fiber. It's part of our founding. It is part of our collective purpose. We seek the truth. As a United Methodist institution, some of our leaders in the past, especially during the civil rights era, coined the phrase, "We United Methodist colleges and universities, we must lead the way in having courageous conversations." Courageous conversations. And so I applaud the work of faculty and staff, student life, who this year with our first-year students, during orientation, we introduced you to some common intellectual matters. Within the frame of social justice, we talked about food and food justice. It's part of that larger issue of social justice. And when I welcomed the first-year students, was that just last week? 2 weeks ago? I told you, you're not going to remember anything I say. And you haven't, right? But hopefully that one thing, stop shaking your head, hopefully that one thing that I did ask you to remember, I asked you to think about and remember empathy. Empathy. To understand how another person, how the other person feels. To understand how someone other than you feels. We invited our honored speaker, Mr. Wesley Williams, here today to share his story, a particular part of his story. It was a specific time and a specific place. That specific place was Andrew College. Now, as Dr. Charles Roberts and I share as historians, he's a legit PhD in history, I'm an educational historian, but history is really only important and significant in context. In context. So when Mr. Williams tells you his story that started here at Andrew College in 1966, there's some context I'm going to lay out for you very briefly. In 1896, the United States Supreme Court upheld in a ruling called Plessy versus Ferguson that separate yet equal was to be the law of the land. Plessy versus Ferguson, 1896. Separate but equal. More than 50 years later, in 1954, in Brown versus the Board of Education, again, when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, it sets precedent. And it is incredibly important, and it affects how all of us live our lives. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court, Brown versus Board of Education, said, separate is inherently not equal. And so we are to integrate our public schools. It became the law of the land. However, there was a very important phrase in that ruling, and it was the words, with all deliberate speed. with all deliberate speed. If Coach Williams asked a baseball player to lay down a bunt and get to first base with all deliberate speed, what does that mean? So it was qualified some, right? That was 1954. So again, piece of context. In 1961, in this state, at the University of Georgia, Charlene Hunter Galt was the first student to enroll at the University of Georgia. 1954, 1961. Her presence on the campus of our flagship university caused great unrest. In 1962, James Meredith integrated the University of Mississippi. There were riots. There was violence. There was gunfire. Both governors of both states were adamant. The governors of the states were adamant that integration was to never occur. And it was the Kennedy administration who employed federal marshals, National Guard, to attempt to ensure the safety of all during these very turbulent times. 61, 62. If you want to read a great book, In My Place by Charlene Hunter Galt. So, in 1966, right here at Andrew College, right here at this very place, the first students of color enrolled. And I asked Mr. Williams to tell his story today. I don't know what he's going to say, but I look forward to his message. So following the faculty and student greetings, which we look forward to, we will hear Mr. Williams' message. His biography is in the program. I urge you to consider what it felt like at that time to be one of the first students of color at Andrew College. Empathy. How does someone else feel? You suspend your ego for a while and seek to understand someone else's experience. I welcome you to Convocation. I thank you for being here today. I welcome our former faculty and staff. The family of Mr. Williams is here. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not remind everyone that our own Julia Williams is the fortunate spouse of Mr. Williams. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Katie Dodrell, and as faculty chair, I bring you greetings from the faculty at Andrew College. We are excited to start the school year and look forward to getting to know all of you as the year continues. For those of you who are new to Andrew College, welcome. For those of you who are returning, welcome back. Research shows that students who get involved on campus improve their chances of success in college. One of the big advantages of Andrew College is that students have a unique opportunity to get involved in ways that will be more difficult at a larger school. We have lots of clubs and campus events that need members and participants. Smaller class sizes make it easier for you to get to know other students and professors. Don't be afraid to participate in class or to visit your professors during our office hours. We will always be glad to see you and willing to help you in any way that we can, though that doesn't always include giving you extra credit or accepting late work. We will hold you to high standards and we expect the best from you. Make the most of your college experience while you are here. Join clubs, participate in campus events, and get to know your fellow students and professors. On behalf of the faculty, welcome to Andrew College.
Good morning. I'm Hannah Sims, president of the Theta Lambda chapter of Phi Theta Kappa. It is my distinct privilege to welcome all of you here today to Andrew College's 166th Convocation. This program officially begins the fall semester and honors the academic life of the college. Thank you all for attending this important day for Andrew College.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Buchanan, for that very kind and generous introduction. Basically, she covered a portion of my address. To the Board of Trustees, President Dr. Lyndon Buchanan, Academic Dean Dr. Karen Pittman, who was the keynote speaker at the Convocation program last year. To other distinguished platform guests, participants, to the Andrew College faculty and staff, to Andrew College students, to the parents, community leaders, and college supporters. Good morning again. Dr. Buchanan is a visionary, a planner, and a person who has and will execute the plan. Just look around campus and see all the renovations that have taken place. Not only did she, the faculty, and staff have a vision, not only did they plan, but most importantly, they are executing the plan. Andrew College is making things happen. Hats off to Andrew College. When Dr. Buchanan called me several weeks ago and asked if I would speak at the Convocation program, I immediately said yes, without any reservation, hesitation, mainly because it was Dr. Buchanan. As many of you are aware, she has that persona that you just don't say no to. During the conversation, she further said, I want you to tell your story. Again, I said yes, without much reservations. After the telephone conversation ended, I thought about it. My story? Then some negative thoughts started popping up. I'm not a published author. I have not written a book like Dr. Phillips and Dr. Pittman. By the way, I've read the Lena Baker story numerous of times. I'm not a notable speaker. I'm not widely recognized, other than here in Cuthbert. So what is my story? But in an effort to dispel some of those negative thoughts that I was having, I drew upon what my mother would always tell her children in the household in a very humorous way. She would say, every dog has a T-A-L-E to wag, not T-A-I-L. Literally, what it meant to us was my sisters and brothers, all of us have stories to tell. And of course, all of you have stories to tell. So I am here today telling my story, and hopefully I will leave you with some concepts that, if applied, will make this school term a very successful and enjoyable one. It is a very special privilege for me to have the opportunity to tell my story and to speak to you for a few minutes. And I'm going to adhere to what I call the 3B principles. be brief, be sincere, with a touch of humor, and be seated. First, I asked myself, what is a convocation, and why are they given at colleges and universities? Convocation comes from the Latin word convocare, meaning, as Dr. Buchanan has said, to come together. Greek translation says that convocation is a group of people formally assembled for a special purpose. It is intended to welcome and celebrate the arrival of new students, welcome back old and returning students, faculty, and administrators. The main focus of a convocation is to inspire incoming freshmen to strive for success and to aid them to come together and help them feel a connection to the existing academic community, which we call Andrew. And with that in mind, my story began with my parents, who were very nurturing and caring, who never walked across a graduation stage to receive any kind of degree, and yet they provided all of us to attain different levels of college degrees in the field of education, spanning from the first sibling graduating from college in 1954, the same year the Supreme Court ruled in the case of Brown versus the Board of Education that segregation of schools was illegal, to the last one graduated in 1973. There were 8 of us. 2 of my sisters are deceased. My parents believed that education was a means of improving all aspects of our lives. They worked extremely hard, day and night, providing us with the opportunity to go to college. Even though my parents' education was limited, they believed that education was extremely important and the key to a better life. One of the reasons that my parents knew about college and higher levels of education was because they lived next door to a very famous educator, Dr. Fletcher Henderson Sr., who worked in the Randolph school system for more than 60 years. I can imagine the conversation that my parents had with Professor Henderson. No doubt, he played an important role in how they viewed education. I can also imagine the influence and the advice that he gave my parents in steering us in the direction of education. I counted the number of combined years of teaching experience that my family has, and the count exceeded over 200 years teaching students both in the public schools and college levels. And as I look over the audience, I think all of my siblings are here today with me. 2 siblings have a doctorate degree, 2 with a master's, 1 with a specialist, and 1 with a bachelor's degree from Morehouse University. My parents were very proud of their children. And at this time, I would like to ask my family to please stand. My 4 sisters and brother. I would also, at this time, like to recognize my wife, Julia Williams. She's waving. My son was in the door a few minutes ago, but he's gone now. He's also part-time with Andrew College. Sounds like a family thing, doesn't it? I say to the faculty, staff, and student body that we would not have completed our educational journey had it not been for our parents and a great support team like Fletcher Henderson Sr., who rendered guidance to our parents. As a matter of fact, his daughter, Mrs. Jacob, who taught several of my siblings English, and many other elementary and high school teachers provided encouragement to us. So I say to the students, it is extremely important to surround yourself with positive and trustworthy people while here at Andrew. And these people can be identified as your president, academic dean, dean of students, faculty, and staff who will help you reach your goals. Students, allow them to be your mentors as you embark on this educational journey. Andrew is a small college with very caring faculty and staff members who will walk you through your triumphs and struggles. Here at Andrew, the faculty will get to know you by your first name and not a student ID number. The student-teacher ratio is small, something like 17-1. My story continues in the year of 1966. 10 years after Andrew College became a co-educational institution in 1956. I graduated from Henderson High School, but just prior to my graduation, my high school principal, Dr. Daniel T. Grant, and the former president of Andrew College, Dr. George Gamble, were developing a plan of integrating Andrew even more. In the fall of 1966, I became one of 7 students to make history as the first Afro-Americans to attend Andrew College. The remaining 6, and I've seen 2 that are in the audience, and I would like them to stand as well. The remaining 6 students were Jacob Greer, Gloria Johnson, others were Dorothy Prather, Diane C., Willie Crowley, and Helen Thornton. As I recall, my experience at Andrew was, I'm going to say, indifferent and limited. I did not live on campus, restricted from joining any organization. I was told it was best not to. Did not eat in the dining hall. Did not attend any social events. No parties. My routine basically was going to class and returning home. I didn't have any problems with limited activities on campus because I enjoyed home. I enjoyed family. And my mother sure was an excellent cook. Much better than any cafeteria food that I've eaten. Of course, I know that the food is great in the Turner Dining Hall because I've eaten there many times since leaving Andrew. However, I do remember I had some great professors here at Andrew. I'm going to call some names. You probably have no idea who I'm talking about. Mrs. Georgettis, Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson, Mrs. Stapleton, Dr. and Dr. Nichols, Mr. Sam Edwards, Coach Gilbert, all of them provided me with the educational foundation to successfully complete degrees at Fort Valley State University, Georgia Southern University, and the University of Georgia. And let me share just a tidbit about Coach Gilbert, who taught me physical education. During class, on this particular day, he demonstrated a wrestling technique that required being placed in a headlock position. Can you imagine how I felt in 1966 being placed in a headlock position by a group of all white males? Just didn't want that experience. But it all turned out good. During my second year at Andrew, here again, uneventful, I attended classes and went home. However, toward the end of the last semester, on April 4th, 1968, a famous nonviolent civil rights leader, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was assassinated. The following day, April 5th, I was seated in class, and the professor, Caucasian, said, "A great American was killed yesterday, an American who wanted justice for all." He said, "I am ashamed." The words that he uttered and the sincerity in his voice had an impact on me. It further revealed the kind of caring and consideration of leaders and teachers I had at Andrew. A summation of my story and experience at Andrew would include the 7 of us were pioneers, trailblazers, coming from a segregated high school and moving into an environment that was also segregated. We encountered some difficulties, but our transition was successful. Nevertheless, times have changed dramatically since 1966. Andrew College now has a minority enrollment of about 52%, according to your webpage. All students have a wealth of opportunities to be successful and participate in any organization, any club, or sporting activities as you so desire. And in order to take advantage of these opportunities, the faculty, staff, especially Andrew College student body, I would like to share with you a few other things that I've learned from my parents, educators, both at Andrew as well as other institutions. I would like to share 7 words that I call carrots, because carrots can help you build strong bodies and strong minds that all begin with the letter C. And I'm not going to elaborate too much on each one of them, because if I did, I would be getting away from one of my B principles, which is be brief. Nevertheless, if you adhere to these carrots, you will be on the road to a very successful journey while here at Andrew. 7 carrots. Carrot 1, challenge. In spite of your race, in spite of your sex, in spite of your economic status, in spite of your environment, and in spite of any circumstance you may be facing, you must be persistent and willing to take on any challenge and move forward. Accept your life as it is. Work to change it rather than wishing it to be. Aim high. Life is going to be a challenge. There are going to be rough places and difficult situations, but accept them and move on. Carrot 2, commitment. One of the surest ways to have significant success with anything is to become committed to it. Whether you are a teacher at an Andrew or a student at Andrew, you must become committed to your goals in order for it to work for you. A commitment is when something consumes your thought and time. My parents were committed to making sure that my sisters, brother, and I were committed to getting a quality education. They made sure that we attended classes and completed our homework assignments every night and day. They were committed to our success. You must have the same commitment to reach the goals that you have set. Carrot 3, and I lumped these together. Carrot 3, concern and compassion. Be concerned about your fellow man. If you are in a position to help someone or to help others, do so without hesitation. Try to make a difference in someone's life. I'm reminded of a story that I heard some time ago that says, there was once a man walking along the seashores. He spotted another man far in the distance. He noticed that man who was in the great distance from him appeared to have been picking up various things and throwing them back in the ocean. As the man came closer, he asked what was he doing, and his reply that he was throwing starfish back into the ocean that had been washed up by the water waves. He further replied that the starfish would die if they didn't get back into the water. The man looked at him and said, don't you realize that there are thousands and thousands of starfish scattered around the beach and that you can't throw all of them back in and it doesn't make any difference either way? The man kneeled down and threw one more starfish back into the ocean, then said, it made a difference to that one. Faculty and staff, be concerned, be compassionate enough to make a difference. Carrot 4 of 7, courage. Have the courage to try things. It's better to say, I can't believe I did that, than to say, I wish I did that. It takes courage to be successful. Courage is thinking about what you want more than anything else and then striving for it. Winston Churchill, former UK Prime Minister, once said, success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is courage to continue the count. Joshua 1:9, scripture said, be strong and courageous, and do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. There will be a time when you need a nudge or a push to show acts of courage. Whether the nudge was intentional or unintentional. And I would like to share a humorous anecdote about courage, just to wake you up. There was a very wealthy man who bought a huge ranch in Arizona, and he invited some of his closest associates to see it. After touring some 1,500 acres of mountains and rivers and grassland, he took everybody inside the house. The house was as spectacular as the scenery was. But out back was the largest swimming pool you had ever seen. However, this gigantic swimming pool was filled with alligators. The rich owner explained it this way: I value courage more than anything else. Courage is what made me a millionaire. In fact, I think courage is such a powerful virtue that if anybody is courageous enough to jump into that pool, swim through those alligators, and make it to the other side, I will give him anything, my house, my land, money. Of course, everybody laughed at the absurd challenge and proceeded to follow the owner into the house for lunch. When suddenly, they heard a splash. Turning around, they saw this guy swimming for life across the pool, thrashing the water as the alligator swam after him. After several death-defying seconds, the man made it, unharmed, to the other side. The rich host was absolutely amazed, but he stuck to his promise. He said, "You are indeed a man of courage, and I will give you anything that you want, my house, my money, my land. Just tell me, what do you want?" The swimmer, breathing heavily, looked up at the host and said, "I just want to know one thing. Who in the heck pushed me into that pool?" Sometimes you have to be pushed or prodded by something to display acts of courage. Sometimes circumstances will dictate acts of courage. Students, you have shown a tremendous amount of courage in deciding to attend Andrew College. And I want to be one of the first to congratulate you on your efforts. Carrot 5, character. My parents used to say to us, your character is what you do and how you act when no one is watching. Students have the character to hold on to what is right. Even if you have to stand alone, character is having the integrity to make tough choices. Joshua said, character is what defines you as a person. Someone once said, and I like this, someone once said, ability may get you to the top, but character is what will keep you there. Students, always try to maintain a good character because it will keep you on the right pathways. Carrot 6 of 7. Confidence is believing in yourself, and you will have the confidence to complete your immediate goals. Confidence is walking into a room knowing that you don't have to compare yourself with anyone. You are not below or above anyone. All of you who are present today have the confidence to achieve the goals that you have set. An American author, Napoleon Hill, said, whatever the mind of a man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. You must have the mindset to say, I can do, I can achieve. There's another famous person that our young students will know, probably not by his real name, Kevin Cordosius Broders. Do you know who that is? Snoop Dogg. That's Professor knew that one. Kevin Cordosius Broders said, if you are breathing, you are achieving. As the professor said, Snoop Dogg. Confidence is knowing that you can achieve any task that you undertake. Carrot 7, calmness. Faculty, staff, and student body always try to remain or maintain a disposition that will allow you to make decisions that are free from anger. Practice keeping calm and move on. Life is often chaotic, uncertain, forceful, but even in the midst of disorder, a calm mind will be your ticket to clarity and making wise decisions. As a county commissioner, many times citizens come to the office to vent and fuss about issues that concern them. I have learned that you must remain calm and move on. Faculty and student body, you must remain calm under pressure in order to remain focused on the objectives and goals that you have set. Another humorous, but this is factual, anecdote to drive home the point that you should always remain calm. I referred to Winston Churchill earlier. Again, I refer to Winston Churchill, who had a knack of taking a drink before addressing Parliament. And on this particular day, a lady approached him and said, "Sir Winston, you are drunk. As a matter of fact, you are disgustingly drunk." Winston didn't remain calm and move on. He reacted and replied. He said, "Lady, you are ugly. Disgustingly ugly." He didn't stop there. He went on to say, "Tomorrow I will be sober, but tomorrow you will be anyway. Nevertheless, forever he lost her support." My point is, you don't have to react to everything that is said about you. Remain calm and move on. And in closing, I would like to leave you with an old Indian folk tale. There was once a wise woman, kind of remind me of my mother, who lived by herself in a small village. She could predict things like when it would rain or when the rain comes. She could even help heal or calm angry neighbors. She was extremely wise. Her reputation was such that it was said she was never wrong, not ever wrong. However, one boy was determined to prove that the old lady didn't know everything. So he developed a scheme that would make it impossible for the lady to be right. The scheme was he caught a small bird and held it behind his back in his hands. So he called out to the old woman and asked, "What am I holding behind my back?" She thought for a moment and said, "A bird." The boy was furious. So he came up with another scheme, a new scheme. He asked the old lady whether the bird was alive or dead. If the old woman replied alive, he would crush it with his hands and prove her wrong. If she said dead, on the other hand, he would pull the bird from behind his back and allow it to fly away. Either way, he would prove his point, and the wise woman would be wrong. So the boy shouted, "Is the bird dead or alive that I'm holding in my hands?" The old lady calmly spoke and said, "I don't know. It's in your hands." Faculty, staff, student body, it's in your hands. It's in your hand this year whether you are going to meet the challenges, be committed, be concerned, show compassion, be courage, display good character, be confident, and remain calm and move on. Faculty, staff, and student body, it is in your hands. Thank you.
For those of you who are still standing, thank you. If convenient, please stand and join us in singing the Andrew College Alma Mater. Where the spires of old Cuthbert pierce the southern blue, proudly stands our alma mater, noble, grand, and true. Blue and gold float forever, bright our colors shine. Hail to thee, our alma mater, hail to Andrew mine. As our classic halls of learning, so thy worth appears, and thy memory still shall linger through life's trials and tears. Lift the chorus, wake the echoes, make the welkin ring. Hail to the Queen of all the Southland, loud her praises sing.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord turn his face upon you and give you peace.